The old concert hall smelled like polished wood and expensive perfume. Hundreds of people filled the red velvet seats, all waiting for the same thing. Tonight wasn't just any concert. It was a masterclass with Victor Reinhardt, one of the most famous pianists in the world. People had traveled from different countries just to be here. Some had paid thousands of dollars for a single ticket. 17-year-old Lily sat in the fourth row, her heart beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. Her fingers kept moving on her lap, practicing invisible notes on invisible keys. She had been doing this since she was 5 years old. It was a habit she couldn't stop even when she tried. Next to her sat her mother, who kept squeezing her hand every few minutes. "Are you nervous, sweetheart?" her mother whispered. Lily nodded. How could she not be nervous? This was the moment she had dreamed about for years. Ever since she heard Victor Reinhardt's recording of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, she knew she wanted to learn from him. She had saved every penny from her part-time job at the local library. She had practiced 6 hours every single day for the past 2 years, just hoping for a chance like this. The white cane rested between her knees. She had been blind since birth. The doctors told her parents that she would never see colors, never see faces, never see a sunset. But they were wrong about one thing. Lily could see music. She could see it better than anyone with perfect vision. When she played the piano, she didn't need eyes. The music painted pictures in her mind that were more beautiful than anything in the physical world. The lights dimmed and the crowd fell silent. Victor Reinhardt walked onto the stage and the applause was deafening. Lily couldn't see him, but she could feel the energy in the room change. This was a man who commanded respect. This was a man who had played in every major concert hall from New York to Tokyo. This was a man whose approval could change a young musician's life forever. "Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen," Victor's voice boomed through the speakers. His accent was thick, European, sophisticated. "Tonight I will be working with some talented young pianists. We will see who has what it takes to truly master this beautiful instrument, and perhaps we will discover who does not." There was nervous laughter from the audience. Lily felt her stomach twist into knots. She hadn't expected him to sound so intimidating. In his interviews, he always seemed warm and encouraging, but there was something cold in his voice tonight. Something that made her wonder if coming here was a mistake. The masterclass began. One by one, students were called to the stage. A young man from Germany played Chopin. Victor stopped him after 30 seconds and spent 10 minutes explaining everything he did wrong. A girl from Brazil attempted Rachmaninoff. Victor made her repeat the same section 15 times until she was visibly shaking. Each critique was harsh, cutting, brutal. The audience watched in uncomfortable silence. Lily's name was called after 90 minutes. Her mother helped her stand and whispered, "You've got this, baby. Just play from your heart like you always do." Lily gripped her white cane and made her way down the aisle. A volunteer met her at the stage stairs and guided her up to the piano. She could hear people whispering. She was used to it. Everywhere she went, people whispered. She found the piano bench and sat down carefully. Her hands reached out and touched the keys, feeling the smooth ivory under her fingertips. This was home. This was where she belonged. She took a deep breath and smiled slightly, ready to pour everything she had into this moment. But before she could play a single note, Victor's voice cut through the air like a knife. "Wait, just wait one moment." His footsteps echoed across the stage as he walked closer. "You are blind, correct?" The question hung in the air. Lily felt hundreds of eyes on her. "Yes, sir. I am, I see." There was a long pause. "Too long. Tell me something. How exactly does a blind person expect to become a serious pianist? How do you read the music? How do you see the keys? How do you watch your hand positions?" The tone of his voice made it clear. This wasn't a genuine question. This was an attack. Lily's hands trembled slightly, but she kept her voice steady. "I don't need to see the music, sir. I memorize everything by listening. I don't need to see the keys because I know where every note lives, and I don't need to watch my hands because I feel the music through my entire body." "How poetic," Victor said, and there was definite mockery in his voice now. "How very touching. But let me tell you something, young lady. Piano is not just about feeling. It is about precision. It is about seeing the composer's intentions on the page. It is about visual memory of complex passages. It is about watching the great masters and learning from their technique." Lily opened her mouth to respond, but he wasn't finished. Throughout history, there have been perhaps 1 or 2 blind musicians who achieved anything noteworthy. Do you know why? Because blindness is a fundamental limitation in this art form. I admire your courage for being here. I truly do. But courage does not replace capability. Determination does not replace sight. The audience was completely silent now. Lily felt like she was falling through the floor. She had faced discrimination before. She had dealt with people who doubted her. But never like this. Never in front of hundreds of people. Never from someone she had admired so deeply. Music isn't about what we see, Lily said quietly, forcing the words out even though her throat was tight with emotion. It's about what we feel. It's about connecting with something deeper than notes on a page. Ah yes, the romantic notion. Victor's laugh was sharp and bitter. Let me guess. You believe that your disability gives you some special insight? Some magical connection to music that we seeing people lack? That is a nice story to tell yourself. But this is the real world. This is professional music. And in this world, sentiment loses to skill every single time. He turned to address the audience directly. This is exactly the problem with modern music education. We tell everyone they can achieve anything if they just believe hard enough. We hand out participation trophies instead of honest feedback. And what happens? We waste people's time. We give them false hope. We set them up for heartbreak. Lily felt hot tears building behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not now. Not in front of everyone, please, Victor said, his voice dripping with condescension. Play something for us. Show us all how feeling is more important than seeing. Enlighten us with your special perspective. Lily's hands were shaking as she placed them on the keys. She had prepared a Chopin nocturne, one of her favorite pieces. But now, with his words echoing in her head, with the weight of his judgment crushing down on her, the music felt a million miles away. She started to play. Her fingers found the notes, but something was wrong. The music that usually flowed through her like breathing now felt mechanical and forced. She could feel Victor standing behind her, radiating disapproval. She could feel the audience's pity like a physical presence. After barely 30 seconds, Victor's hand came down on the piano, creating a harsh sound that made everyone jump. Stop. Just stop. This is exactly what I expected. Victor walked around the piano slowly, like a predator circling its prey. You see? This is what happens when we rely on feeling instead of proper training. The notes are there, yes, but where is the soul? Where is the interpretation? You are just pressing keys in the correct order. A computer could do the same thing. Lily sat frozen on the bench. Her hands were still touching the keys, but they felt like they belonged to someone else. Every word he spoke felt like a knife cutting deeper and deeper. She had played this piece 1,000 times. She knew every note, every dynamic change, every subtle shift in emotion. But right now, in this moment, with his judgment hanging over her like a dark cloud, she couldn't remember why she loved music in the first place. This is why I maintain, Victor continued, addressing the audience again, that certain physical limitations make it nearly impossible to reach the highest levels of artistry. I am not being cruel. I'm being realistic. Better to know the truth now than to waste years chasing an impossible dream. The silence in the concert hall was suffocating. Lily could hear someone in the audience shift uncomfortably in their seat. She could hear her own breathing, fast and shallow. She could hear her heart breaking. Thank you for your time, Victor said dismissively. Next student, please. Lily stood up, her legs feeling like rubber. The volunteer who had helped her onto the stage rushed over to guide her back down. But Lily didn't want help. She didn't want anyone to touch her or talk to her or feel sorry for her. She gripped her white cane and made her way off the stage alone, counting steps using muscle memory, moving on autopilot while her mind screamed in humiliation. She found her mother in the hallway outside the concert hall. Her mother took one look at her face and pulled her into a tight hug. That's when the tears finally came. All the tears she had been holding back since Victor's first cruel words. All the pain and embarrassment and shame poured out of her in great heaving sobs. I'm so sorry, baby, her mother whispered, rubbing her back. I'm so sorry that man said those things to you. He's wrong. He's so wrong, but was he? That's what Lily kept asking herself. Was he wrong? Maybe she had been fooling herself all along. Maybe her teachers had been too kind, too encouraging. Maybe the standing ovations she got at local recitals were just people feeling sorry for the blind girl who tried her best. Maybe she would never be good enough for the real world of professional music. They went to the bathroom so Lily could wash her face and try to pull herself together. She stood at the sink, splashing cold water on her swollen eyes when she heard a voice behind her. "That man is a fool." Lily turned around. "Who's there?" "My name is Helen Tanaka. I was in the audience tonight." The voice belonged to an older woman, probably in her 70s, based on the gentle rasp in her tone. "I've been teaching piano for 52 years. And what I witnessed on that stage tonight was one of the most disgraceful displays I've ever seen." Lily's mother stepped closer protectively. "Thank you for saying that." "I'm not saying it to be nice," Helen continued. "I'm saying it because it's true. Victor Reinhardt is a technically brilliant pianist, but he lost something important a long time ago. He lost his humanity. He lost his ability to hear what's really happening in the music." She paused. "But you, young lady, you have something he will never have. I heard it in those 30 seconds you played. Even terrified and humiliated, you have a connection to music that comes from somewhere deep." Lily wiped her eyes with a paper towel. "It doesn't matter. He was right. I can't see the music. I can't watch other pianists and learn from them. I can't—" "Stop," Helen said firmly. "Listen to me very carefully. Your blindness is not your weakness. It's your strength. Do you know what most pianists do wrong? They rely too much on their eyes. They watch their hands instead of feeling the keys. They read the notes but don't listen to the sound they're creating. They see other performers but don't develop their own voice." She moved closer and Lily could smell lavender perfume. "You don't have those distractions. Every piece you learn you have to truly listen to. Every technique you develop you have to feel it in your body. You've been training your ears and your musical intuition since day one. That's not a limitation. That's a gift." Lily wanted to believe her. She wanted to so badly. But the wound was too fresh. Even if that's true, what does it matter? People like Victor Reinhardt control this industry. If he says I'm not good enough, who's going to disagree with him? "I know someone," Helen said quietly. "I have a friend who organizes the International Young Pianists Competition. It's one of the most prestigious competitions in the world, and they have a rule that makes it perfect for you." Lily's mother spoke up. "What kind of rule?" "The preliminary round is completely anonymous. Performers submit video recordings, but the videos only show their hands and the keyboard. No faces, no names, no backgrounds. Nothing that could bias the judges. They judge purely on the music itself." For the first time since leaving the stage, Lily felt a tiny spark of something. Not quite hope, but maybe the memory of hope. "When is this competition?" "The preliminary videos are due in 3 months. The finals are in 4 months, right here in this city, actually." Helen pulled out a business card and pressed it into Lily's mother's hand. "My phone number's on there. If you're interested, call me tomorrow. I'd like to help you prepare." "Why would you do that?" Lily asked. "You don't even know me." "Because I've spent 52 years teaching young musicians and I've learned to recognize real talent when I hear it. What happened tonight was not about your ability. It was about one bitter man who's forgotten why he fell in love with music in the first place." Helen's voice softened. "You have 3 months to prove him wrong. Not to him, but to yourself. The question is, are you willing to try?" Lily stood there in the bathroom, her eyes still puffy from crying, her confidence shattered into a million pieces. Everything in her wanted to quit, to go home and never touch a piano again, to accept that maybe Victor was right and she was just kidding herself, but there was another voice inside her. A quieter voice. The same voice that made her fall in love with music when she was 5 years old. The voice that heard melodies in rainfall and harmonies in birdsong. The voice that knew deep in her bones that music was her purpose in this world. "What would I have to do?" Lily asked. Helen smiled. Lily couldn't see it, but she could hear it in her voice. "First we choose a piece. Not something safe or conventional. Something that will make the judges sit up and take notice. Something that tells your story without words. And then you work harder than you've ever worked in your life. You practice until your fingers bleed. You memorize every single note until it lives in your muscle memory. You stop playing it safe and start playing with the kind of raw emotion that makes people forget to breathe." Lily thought about Victor's words. She thought about all the doubt and fear and shame, and then she thought about something her grandmother used to say before she passed away. "The darkness is where the stars shine brightest." She had been living in darkness her entire life. Maybe it was time to shine. "Okay," Lily said, her voice stronger now. "Let's do it. Let's show them what a blind pianist can really do." Her mother squeezed her hand. Helen laughed with delight. And somewhere in Lily's chest, that tiny spark of hope began to grow into a flame. The next 3 months were going to change everything. Lily just didn't know how much yet. The next morning, Lily's mother called Helen. By that afternoon, they were sitting in Helen's living room drinking tea and talking about music. Helen's house smelled like old books and piano polish. Lily could hear a grandfather clock ticking somewhere in the corner. "The piece I want you to learn is called Shadows and Light," Helen said. It was written by a Korean composer named Junho Park. He's not very well known yet, but this piece is extraordinary. It's 20 minutes long, incredibly difficult, and hardly anyone has performed it successfully. 20 minutes? Lily's mother sounded worried. That's a lot to memorize. Lily has memorized longer pieces before, Helen said confidently. Besides, this isn't just about memory. This piece is special because it tells a story. It starts in complete darkness with these low, haunting notes. Then slowly, light begins to break through. There are moments of struggle, moments of doubt, moments where you think the darkness might win, but by the end there's this explosion of hope and beauty that makes you want to cry. Lily felt goosebumps on her arms. It sounds perfect. It is perfect. For you especially. Because Junho Park wrote this piece after he lost his hearing in one ear. He was terrified he'd never compose again. This piece is about finding your way through darkness to the other side. It's about discovering that what you thought was your weakness might actually be your greatest strength. Helen played a recording of the piece. Lily sat perfectly still, letting every note sink into her brain. She could hear the complexity immediately. The left hand and right hand were doing completely different things, weaving in and out of each other like two conversations happening at once. The tempo changed constantly. There were sections so fast her fingers would have to fly across the keys, and other sections so slow and delicate that one wrong touch would ruin everything. "I can do this," Lily whispered when the recording ended. "I know you can," Helen said, "but it's going to take everything you have. We start tomorrow. 6 hours a day, every single day for the next 3 months, and that's exactly what they did. Every morning at 8 o'clock, Lily and her mother drove to Helen's house. They would work until lunch, take a short break, and then continue until 2 in the afternoon. Then Lily would go home and practice for 3 more hours on her own piano. The first week was brutal. Helen broke the piece down into tiny sections, sometimes just 4 or 5 measures at a time. They would work on those measures for hours until Lily could play them perfectly, with the right speed, the right dynamics, the right feeling. Then they would move to the next section. "Your technique is actually very good," Helen told her after the first week. "Better than I expected. But I need you to stop being so careful. Stop trying to play it perfectly. I need you to break it first. Make mistakes. Play it too fast, too slow, too loud, too soft. Experiment. Find your own voice in this piece." That advice changed everything. Lily started taking risks. She would play sections with wild passion, then play them again with whisper-soft gentleness. She tried different interpretations, different emotional approaches. Sometimes Helen would stop her and say, "Yes, that's it. That's the feeling we're looking for." Other times she would say, "Interesting, but not quite right. Try again." By the 3rd week, Lily could play the entire piece from memory. But Helen wasn't satisfied. "Memorizing it is just the beginning. Now we make it yours. Now we find the story you want to tell." They spent hours talking about what the music meant. What was the darkness in Lily's life? The humiliation from Victor, yes, but also deeper things. The loneliness she sometimes felt being different from other kids. The frustration of living in a world designed for people who could see. The fear that maybe she really wasn't good enough. And what was the light? The joy she felt when she played music. The way piano made her feel whole and complete. The love of her mother who never once doubted her. The kindness of teachers like Helen who saw her potential. The dream that maybe, just maybe, she could prove Victor wrong and show the world what she was capable of. "Put all of that into the music," Helen said. "Every painful moment. Every beautiful moment. Every fear and every hope. This piece is your story now. Play it like your life depends on it." By the 6th week, something magical started happening. Lily wasn't just playing the notes anymore. She was living inside the music. Her body would sway with the melodies. Her face would show every emotion the music expressed. Sometimes she would finish a practice session with tears running down her face, completely exhausted but also more alive than ever. Helen invited a few of her old colleagues to hear Lily play. These were professional musicians, people who had performed all over the world. After Lily finished, there was complete silence. Then one of them, a cellist named Robert, said quietly, That was one of the most moving performances I've ever witnessed. But Helen still wasn't satisfied. It's beautiful, Lily, it really is. But I need you to go deeper. You're still holding back. You're still afraid to completely let go and be vulnerable. I don't know how to do that, Lily admitted. Yes, you do. You just have to trust yourself. Trust the music. Stop thinking about Victor or the judges or anyone else. When you sit at that piano, it's just you and the music. Nothing else exists. Can you do that? The next practice session, Lily tried to do what Helen asked. She sat at the piano and closed her eyes. Wait, that was funny. She was already blind, but she always kept her eyes open out of habit. This time she let them close. She took 3 deep breaths. And then she started to play. Something shifted. She stopped thinking about her fingers or the notes or the technique. She just felt every emotion the music carried, felt her own story pouring through her hands, felt connected to something bigger than herself. When she finished, she was shaking. That's it. Helen's voice was thick with emotion. That's exactly it. If you play like that in the competition, you're going to change everything. The 3 months flew by faster than Lily could believe. Suddenly it was time to record her submission video. They rented a small recording studio. The camera was set up to show only Lily's hands and the keyboard, exactly as the competition rules required. No face, no identifying features, just the music. Lily was terrified. What if she messed up? What if all this work was for nothing? What if Victor was right after all? You've prepared for this moment, Helen said, squeezing her shoulder. You know this piece better than you know your own name. Now stop thinking and start feeling. Give them the performance of your life. Lily sat at the piano. She thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. The humiliation at Victor's masterclass, the tears in the bathroom, the 3 months of bleeding fingers and exhausted muscles, the story she was about to tell through music. She placed her hands on the keys and began to play Shadows and Light. For 20 minutes, Lily poured her entire soul into that piano. She played the darkness of self-doubt and the light of hope. She played the pain of rejection and the joy of perseverance. She played for every person who was ever told they weren't good enough. Every person who was ever made to feel less than because they were different. When the final note faded away, there was silence in the studio. Then Helen started clapping and the sound engineer joined in and her mother was crying happy tears. That was absolutely perfect, Helen said. Now we submit it and we wait. The video was uploaded that night. Performer number 47, anonymous, unknown, just music. 3 months later, Lily got the call that would change her life forever. The email came on a Tuesday morning. Lily was eating breakfast when her mother's phone pinged. There was a long silence, and then her mother made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a laugh. What is it? Lily asked, her heart suddenly racing. You made it, her mother whispered. Lily, you made it to the finals. You're one of 5 finalists out of over 300 submissions from around the world. The spoon fell from Lily's hand and clattered against her bowl. Are you serious? I'm reading the email right now. The finals are in 6 weeks. Same city as Victor's masterclass. They want you to perform live at the Grand Theater. Her mother's voice broke. Baby, they're calling your performance extraordinary. They're saying performer 47 is getting attention from music critics all over the world. Lily couldn't breathe. She had hoped, of course. She had dreamed. But she never actually believed it would happen. For a moment, she just sat there, overwhelmed by a rush of emotion so strong she thought she might burst. Then reality hit her. Mom, when they see me walk out on stage with my cane, they'll know. Everyone will know I'm performer 47. What if they judge me differently? What if— Stop, her mother said firmly. You earned this. Your music earned this. Nobody can take that away from you. Helen came over that evening and they celebrated with cake and sparkling cider. But Helen also brought news that made Lily's stomach drop. I need to tell you something, Helen said carefully. Victor Reinhardt is going to be one of the guest judges for the finals. The room went silent. Lily felt like someone had dumped ice water over her head. No, she said. No, that can't be right. I'm sorry, sweetheart. The competition announced it yesterday. They've invited 3 celebrity judges to join the regular panel. Victor is one of them. Lily stood up from the table, her hands shaking. I can't do this. I can't perform in front of him again. You don't understand what it was like. The way he looked at me, the things he said, I know exactly what it was like. Helen interrupted gently. I was there, remember? But Lily, think about this. You've already proven yourself. The judges chose your video without knowing anything about you. They chose it because of the music, nothing else. That's what matters. But when he sees me, when he sees you, he's going to realize he made a terrible mistake. And you know what? That's his problem, not yours. You don't owe him anything. You're not performing for him. You're performing for yourself. Over the next 6 weeks, Lily practiced even harder than before, but now there was a new emotion driving her. It wasn't just hope anymore. It was determination mixed with something that felt almost like anger. She wanted to prove Victor wrong so badly it burned inside her chest. The news about Performer 47 started spreading online. Music blogs were analyzing the preliminary video. Some famous pianists posted about it on social media. A classical music magazine called it the most emotionally devastating performance by an unknown artist in the past decade. Everyone was wondering who Performer 47 was. The mystery made it even more exciting. Lily tried not to read the comments or listen to the speculation. She just practiced. 6 hours, 7 hours, sometimes 8. Her fingers developed new calluses. Her back ached from sitting at the piano bench for so long. But every time she played Shadows and Light, she felt stronger. More ready, more certain that she belonged on that stage. Finally, the day arrived. The Grand Theater was the same building where Victor's masterclass had been held 3 months earlier. Walking back through those doors felt surreal. Last time, Lily had left in tears, humiliated and broken. Today, she was one of 5 finalists in an international competition. Backstage was chaos. The other 4 finalists were warming up in separate practice rooms. Lily could hear them through the walls. They were all incredible. A guy from Russia who made his piano sound like an entire orchestra. A woman from Japan whose technique was so clean it sounded computer-generated. A teenager from Mexico who played with wild, passionate energy. And someone from France whose interpretation of Debussy made even the stage crew stop and listen. "You belong here," Helen reminded her for the 100th time. "Your video was chosen alongside theirs. You're their equal. Don't forget that." The finals worked differently than the preliminary round. Each finalist would perform live, one at a time. After they finished playing, their identity would be revealed to the audience and judges. The competition wanted to maintain the anonymous judging for as long as possible, so they made each performer wait behind a screen until after they played. Lily was scheduled to perform 4th. She sat in her practice room, listening to the muffled sounds of the other performances through the walls. She couldn't hear them clearly, but she could hear the audience reactions. Applause. Lots of applause. These performers were good. Really good. When the 3rd performer finished, a volunteer came to get Lily. "You're next, Performer 47. Are you ready?" Was she ready? Lily had no idea. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Her hands were cold despite the warm backstage temperature, but she nodded and picked up her white cane. They led her to the side of the stage behind a large screen that blocked the audience's view. She could hear the announcer's voice booming through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, our next performer has been the subject of much discussion and speculation. Music critics around the world have praised the preliminary performance. Several professional pianists have stated that this might be the most emotionally powerful playing they've heard from a young artist in years. The identity of this performer has been one of the best-kept secrets of this competition." The announcer paused for dramatic effect. Lily's hands gripped her cane so tight her knuckles hurt. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Performer 47. The screen was pulled away. Lily stepped forward onto the stage, her white cane tapping against the floor. The audience gasped. It was like a wave of shock rolling through the theater. Lily could feel it, could hear the sudden intake of breath from hundreds of people. She made her way to the piano, counting steps, using the muscle memory from all her practice sessions. A volunteer had already adjusted the bench to her preferred height. She folded her cane and set it carefully beside the piano. Then she sat down and placed her hands on the keys. The theater was absolutely silent. Not a cough, not a whisper, not a single sound. And somewhere in the judges' panel, Victor Reinhardt sat frozen in his chair. His face had gone completely white. His hands gripped the armrests so tight his knuckles were turning pale. He recognized her immediately. The blind girl from his masterclass. The girl he had humiliated. The girl whose dreams he had tried to crush. She was Performer 47. The anonymous pianist whose performance had moved him to tears when he watched the preliminary video. The musician whose playing had made him question everything he thought he knew about music. the artist he had called possibly the most naturally gifted young pianist of this generation, in an interview just 2 weeks ago, and he had told her she would never be good enough. Lily took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been working toward for 3 months. 3 months of bleeding fingers and exhausted muscles. 3 months of pouring her heart into every single note. 3 months of proving to herself that Victor was wrong. She thought about Helen's words. "You're not performing for him. You're performing for yourself." Lily closed her eyes and began to play. The first notes of shadows and light floated through the theater like a whisper. Soft, haunting, full of mystery. This was the darkness section, the beginning of the journey. Lily's left hand played deep, resonant bass notes while her right hand danced delicately in the higher registers. The two melodies intertwined like two people having a conversation in the dark, searching for each other. In the audience, people leaned forward in their seats. This wasn't just music. This was storytelling. You could feel the loneliness in those opening phrases, the uncertainty, the fear of being lost. Victor sat in the judges' panel, his pen frozen above his scoring sheet. He couldn't move, couldn't think. All he could do was listen. And remember the day he had stood on that stage and told this girl she would never be good enough. Remember the look on her face when his words cut into her. Remember how certain he had been that he was right. The music began to shift. Lily's hands moved faster now, the tempo increasing. This was the struggle section. The notes came in rapid bursts, challenging passages that would make most pianists stumble. But Lily's fingers flew across the keys with absolute precision. More than precision. There was emotion in every single note. You could hear the fight, the determination, the refusal to give up. A woman in the third row started crying. She didn't even know why. The music just reached inside her chest and pulled something out. Something she didn't know was there. The left hand and right hand were doing completely different things now. Two complex melodies weaving in and out of each other. It should have sounded chaotic. Instead, it sounded like the most natural thing in the world. Like this was exactly how the universe was supposed to sound. Then came the doubt section. The music slowed down, became quieter. There were long pauses between phrases. Moments of silence that felt heavy with questions. Lily's face showed every emotion the music expressed. Pain, uncertainty, the fear that maybe the darkness would win after all. Victor felt something wet on his cheek. He reached up and realized he was crying. When was the last time he cried? He couldn't remember. Maybe when his mother died 15 years ago. But this was different. These tears weren't from sadness. They were from something else. Something that felt like shame and awe and regret all mixed together. The music built slowly toward the climax. Lily's entire body swayed with the melody. Her hands moved across the keys like they were painting pictures in the air. Faster, louder, more passionate. This was the breakthrough moment when light finally starts to break through the darkness, and then it happened. The explosion of hope. The section where everything comes together. Lily's hands were moving so fast they were almost a blur. The notes cascaded over each other like waterfalls of sound. Major chords rang out triumphant and clear. This was joy. This was victory. This was the sound of someone who refused to be broken. People in the audience were openly sobbing now. Not just one or two people. Dozens. Even the other finalists backstage were listening on the monitors with tears streaming down their faces. The stage crew stood frozen, forgetting their jobs, just listening. Victor's hands were shaking. He had spent 40 years studying music, performing music, teaching music. He thought he knew everything there was to know about piano. But he had never heard anything like this. This wasn't just technical skill. This wasn't just correct notes played at the right tempo. This was a human soul speaking directly to other human souls through 88 keys. The final section began. The resolution. The music became softer again, but different from the opening darkness. This was peaceful darkness. The kind of darkness that feels like home, like rest after a long journey. Lily played with such tenderness, such pure emotion, that every person in that theater felt like she was playing just for them, like she understood every struggle they had ever faced and was telling them, without words, that it was going to be okay. The final chord hung in the air for what felt like forever. Then silence. Complete, absolute silence. Lily sat at the piano, her hands still resting on the keys, her chest rising and falling with deep breaths. She had given everything. Every ounce of emotion, every piece of her story, every moment of pain and triumph from the past 3 months. She felt completely empty and completely full at the same time. The silence stretched on. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15. Then someone in the balcony stood up and started clapping. Then someone else. Then someone else. Within seconds, the entire theater was on their feet. The applause was deafening. People were shouting, crying, clapping so hard their hands hurt. The ovation went on for 5 minutes, then 10. The other judges were standing and applauding. The stage crew was applauding. Even the other finalists had come out from backstage and were applauding. It was the kind of standing ovation that happens maybe once in a lifetime, the kind performers dream about but rarely experience. Lily stood up slowly, holding onto the piano for support. Her legs felt weak. She could hear the applause vibrating through the stage floor, could feel the energy of hundreds of people expressing something they couldn't put into words. She bowed, tears running down her face. Not tears of sadness this time. Tears of release, of accomplishment, of proving to herself that she was exactly where she belonged. In the judges' panel, Victor stood with everyone else. But he wasn't just applauding. He was sobbing. His carefully constructed image of the stern, uncompromising master teacher had completely shattered. Because he finally understood what Lily had tried to tell him 3 months ago. Music isn't about what you see, it's about what you feel. And he had been so focused on technique and precision and rules that he had forgotten how to feel anything at all. The competition results were announced an hour later. Lily won unanimously. Every single judge gave her the highest score. It wasn't even close. The second-place finalist was incredible, but Lily's performance had been on another level entirely. When they called her name as the winner, Lily walked back onto the stage to accept the trophy. The audience went wild again, but before she could leave the stage, Victor stood up from the judges' panel. He walked up to the stage slowly, like a man carrying a heavy weight. "Miss Lily," he said into the microphone, his voice cracking. "May I speak with you?" The theater went quiet again. Everyone sensed something important was about to happen. Lily turned toward his voice. "Yes?" Victor took a shaky breath. "3 months ago I said terrible things to you. I told you that your blindness made it impossible for you to become a great pianist. I mocked you in front of hundreds of people. I tried to crush your dreams because I was too arrogant to see what was right in front of me." He paused, wiping his eyes. "I was wrong. I was so completely, terribly wrong. You just gave the most moving performance I have witnessed in my entire career. You didn't just play music tonight. You reminded all of us why music exists in the first place, to connect us, to heal us, to tell truths that words cannot express." Victor's voice dropped to almost a whisper, but the microphone picked it up. "I am deeply sorry. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I want you to know that you taught me something I should have learned decades ago. True vision has nothing to do with eyes. It comes from somewhere much deeper. And you, young lady, you see more clearly than anyone I have ever met." The audience erupted again. Victor extended his hand, then realized his mistake and said, "I would be honored if you would shake my hand." Lily reached out and found his hand. It was trembling. "I forgive you," she said simply. "And thank you for teaching me something too. You taught me that the only person I need to prove myself to is me." Years later, Lily would become one of the most celebrated pianists in the world. She performed in concert halls across every continent. She won Grammy Awards in international competitions. She inspired millions of people with disabilities to pursue their dreams. But she never forgot that night at the Grand Theater. The night she proved that darkness is just where the stars shine brightest. The night she learned that what the world sees as weakness can actually be your greatest strength. The night one blind girl's music reminded everyone in that theater what it means to truly see.